I'm very, very proud of all of the work of the Active Consent team. Very proud of NUI Galway, of Padraig, Charlotte, Siobhán, Daniel, all the team. Active Consent has been an amazing initiative. You've been leading the way and I thank you for that. And you've created this cutting edge toolkit to meet the needs of what is a wide coalition of staff and student stakeholders in our higher education institutions who are working hard to make positive change on consent, sexual violence and harassment.
So one of the questions that we get asked often is, what's the asterisk about in your name? And what the asterisk in Active Consent means for us is that our program and our vision are always changing and always expanding. We're inclusive across genders, sexualities, relationships, and the audiences that we're trying to address and reach are always growing as we work to tackle sexual violence, harassment, and consent education in our society.
I know this toolkit features a 3-stage consent education program for the academic year, and it can be delivered fully online, which in this COVID world where these Zoom meetings have become the temporary norm, I think is so important.
Stage 1 is our Active Consent online workshop. Our Smart Consent workshop has made its rounds around Ireland over many years. When faced with, do we wait for this to pass over or do we go online, we decided to reinvent what we do for an online environment, and I will speak to that in a moment. Stage 2, what we're premiering today, our Active Consent e-learning module on sexual violence and harassment, how to support yourself and your peers. This piece builds directly on the research that we undertook with the Union of Students in Ireland that produced the Sexual Experiences Survey earlier this year. We've turned a lot of those learning and knowledge points into a program that is gamified, that takes users through a journey where they learn to define terms around sexual violence, sexual harassment, engage in scenarios and exercises that ask them to think critically, not just get told what terms mean, but put them into practice and get to show some of their own insight in these areas. And then finally, our Active Consent online program, where every day, all year round, we're bringing to you relevant facts, statistics, conversations about consent that are keeping up with what's going on in the everyday of Irish society.
There's also not been an openness around talking about consent, sexual health and sexual violence and harassment. And yet people are drawn to sexual intimacy. It's the time of emerging adulthood when they're experiencing new things, and it's a period of development and growth for everybody. But we have to push back quite hard on rape myth endorsement, for example. Here's a couple of examples from the Sexual Experiences Survey that we've included in the toolkit for the first time, some of the data there. What you can see is still large numbers of students endorsing the idea that, guys might just get sexually carried away, or that due to alcohol, somebody has overstepped the mark. So you can see those figures on agreement, but also quite concerning, the neutrality. Okay, so we need to figure out ways to nudge those people who are neutral on these moral and ethical issues into the positive category, to join with us in seeing these as false beliefs that help to perpetuate sexual violence and harassment.
The findings of the research by colleagues at NUIG really reinforces the guidance that appeared in the consent framework back in April 2019, and further highlights the importance of the availability of consent training for all students in our higher education institutions.
I want you all to know, as Minister, I am determined to use my offices and my role to help bring about a cultural change that needs to take place, I believe, in Irish society, but specifically in the sector that I have responsibility for.
This toolkit, I think, will be an essential resource to support staff and student representatives.
We're going to see this country take a leading role in confronting sexual violence and harassment. No part of society is untouched by sexual violence and harassment. It is in no way confined to higher education, but our higher education sector is primed to be able to change this. Education should be a place of inclusion, safety, support, respect and tolerance.
The toolkit itself, in tandem with national buy-in from all HEIs, has the potential to make a key difference in the behavioural, cultural and attitude shift we have been longing to tackle for years.
What I think is really important about this programme is that it is giving not just students, but staff and everyone in all of the colleges language, behaviour, ways of thinking about sexual activity that will allow people to talk and communicate, yes, but will also raise awareness more generally, and will help build a culture of non-tolerance, no tolerance of sexual violence.
I'm optimistic that this toolkit will initiate conversations and influence the attitudes towards consent and sexual misconduct for years to come.
This has to become a core component of running a higher education institution, making sure your campus is safe, making sure your campus is inclusive, and making sure that there is a zero tolerance policy towards sexual harassment and sexual violence.